Good evening. It's Wednesday, November 5th, 2025, and here's the latest happenings inside the federal machine. Today marks 1 year since President Trump won the presidency, clinching all 7 swing states and the popular majority. We'll have a look at some of the administration's accomplishments from this year so far. We also have an update on the UPS cargo plane that crashed last night at Muhammad Ali International Airport in Louisville, Kentucky. Also, the elections in blue states happened yesterday, and we'll take a look at some of the results as well as reactions to Zohran Mamdani's win as mayor of New York City. President Trump visited the America Business Forum in Miami today, where he gave a speech and received a key to the city. An illegal immigrant who was being chased by federal agents ran into a daycare center where she was apprehended, and Democrats are twisting the facts by claiming she was a preschool worker who was being kidnapped and disappeared by ICE. Democrats have been consumed by the smelly gaslight of evil. And Chucky Schumer wrote a letter to President Trump demanding a sit-down so the Democrats can escape the shutdown black hole they jumped into. And Cuck Schumer had the nerve to call it a Republican shutdown within his letter. Also, President Trump addressed the nation over the mass killings of Christians in the country of Nigeria. And a lot more happened today, so I'm just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do the Swamp Monday through Friday, and the video typically posts at the latest at 11 p.m. Eastern. And any article that you see in the video will be linked in the description below. And this comes from Secretary Sean Duffy, an update on the crash of a UPS cargo flight in Kentucky. Today, at least 3 lives were taken from us, and at least 11 people have been hurt. Multiple buildings have been damaged. The Louisville airport is currently closed, while the Louisville Air Traffic Control Tower was evacuated because of smoke and fumes. The TRACON in the area is operational. Thank you to our brave first responders. Kentucky USDOT is with you. So I honestly, I don't, is it pronounced Tracon? Not sure. TRACON, in case you're listening and not watching the video at the moment. So big fireball in the image. Looks like they've got rescue. Yeah, they definitely have rescue, ladder trucks, everything down there trying to put out a fire, or the fire, which was a huge fire trail that spanned at least a quarter mile in length. It was absolutely incredible, crazy, awful tragedy. So NTSB, they're investigating right now. So I'm assuming we're probably not going to get any preliminary information as to what happened with the crash, what caused it, probably for days to come, if not weeks. So I'll keep an eye on it. As soon as I see something, then I will definitely bring it up as soon as it becomes available. And this comes from Mike Rogers. Zohran Mamdani, the new leader of the Democrat Party, but his communist agenda isn't isolated to New York City. Let's take a watch.
Made it official. Their new leader, Zohran Mamdani, a total communist.
Totally.
This is what the Democrat Party stands for now. Government-run grocery stores, defund the police, abolishing private health care plans, social workers replacing cops, boys and girls sports, and New York City is only the beginning.
Look, they're calling that far left, progressive, socialist, communist, Marxist, whatever they're calling it. That is the Democrat Party today. There's probably not a single Democrat politician elected, at least not in Washington, D.C., that will stand against transgenders and girls' sports or anything that they just mentioned in this video. Every single Democrat's going to stand behind that. So when they say that the old garb of Democrats and the old school liberal, that classical liberal Democrats, their party is being hijacked by the socialist leftists. No, dude, it's already been hijacked by the socialist leftists. All of these Democrats, Chuck Schumer, everybody, all the old school Democrats, they're all standing behind this right now. So anytime I hear that argument from Republicans that the Democrat Party's under threat by the socialist Marxists, no, dude, it's a done deal. It's already over. They all stand behind it already. They have completely turned this party into a communist party.
3 radical Democrats running for Senate want to bring these same extreme Marxist policies to Michigan. Michigan doesn't need a communist takeover. We need safety. good paying jobs, freedom. We need Mike Rogers. Let's get to work.
Yeah, well, if Republicans would improve their ground game, maybe they would get some progress in that, because I do have the election results from last night. Might as well bring it up now. The 2025 election results live. This is on NPR. From last night, Virginia, the governor, Democrat Abigail Spanberger won 57.2% to 42.6%. Almost 2 million votes to the Democrat against, as opposed to 1.4 million from Winsome Earl Sears with the GOP. And in New Jersey, the candidate Mickey Sherrill, Democrat. Obviously, I don't live in New Jersey, never been there, never plan on going to New Jersey. But anyway, they got 56.3% of the vote, 1.8 million votes against Jack Ciattarelli, GOP, 43.1%, 1.3 million votes. And New York City, Zohran Mamdani, obviously he won in New York City, 50.4% against 41.6%, which was Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent this time, with 854,000 votes against Mamdani's 1 million votes. And we've got California Prop 50, congressional redistricting, which, of course, overwhelmingly won in California. I don't think that's of any surprise to anybody. 63.9% of those who vote in California, they voted for Prop 50, which is going to open the door to redistricting California and essentially turning the state into a 100% Democrat state as far as the House of Representatives is concerned. I think there's only 7 Republicans that are representing districts in California right now. And how many districts are there? There's like 53 or 55 districts in California, which is crazy because like 37% of California, they vote Republican. And obviously it's already been gerrymandered into an overwhelming supermajority on the state level, at least with California, but they're about to turn it into even more of a supermajority and probably an exclusive Democrat stronghold for the state of California in the House. So we'll see what happens with that. I know it's being challenged in court. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said yesterday that they are looking into they're considering an investigation, if not opening up one already, into this Prop 50. And not just the Prop 50, like the language of it. I don't think they're investigating that necessarily. They're investigating the voting process because they have evidence that lots of illegal immigrants voted in this election. And it looks like they're going to I'm assuming they're going to try to nullify this. So, all right. But anyway, from Colorado, ballot measures, Colorado Proposition LL, retain excess Prop FF revenue. Not familiar with that, to be honest, but I am familiar with this one, raising taxes for the school meal program, 59%. That was a yes against 41%. So if you live in Colorado, your taxes are about to go up just a little bit more because all the students, whether if they have rich parents or poor parents, no matter what, everybody's going to get free meal, quote unquote free. I mean, we all know nothing's free except the rain that falls, the sun that shines, and the wind that blows, but everything else costs money in this world. So anyway, that's it. From last night, the election results, all blue states, obviously. I mean, there's not one red state. I mean, like maybe you could argue Virginia might be somewhat or kind of close to a swing state, but I don't even think Virginia is a swing state, is it? I'm pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure it's been a blue state for a while. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So, all right, so moving on to RNC research. Not even 24 hours after raging pro-Hamas and anti-Semitic communist Zohran Mamdani was elected NYC mayor, Nazi swastikas were found painted on the walls of a Jewish school in Brooklyn. And this comes from Nicole Maliotakis. Brooklyn's Jewish community wakes up to 2 swastikas at Megan David Yeshiva in Gravesend. While NYPD hate crimes investigates, the mayor-elect must unequivocally condemn this hateful graffiti. Time to represent and protect all New Yorkers. I doubt he's probably going to say anything at all with regard to that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll condemn it. I somehow doubt it, though. And this is from JD Vance. I think it's idiotic to overreact to a couple of elections in blue states, but a few thoughts. Scott Pressler and TPUSA and a bunch of others have been working hard to register voters. I said it in 2022, and I've said it repeatedly since. Our coalition is lower propensity, and that means we have to do better at turning out voters than we have in the past. Yeah, like Republicans, they just don't have a good ground game against Democrats. They just really don't. And number 2, we need to focus on the home front. The president has done a lot that has already paid off in lower interest rates and lower inflation, but we inherited a disaster from Joe Biden, and Rome wasn't built in a day. We're going to keep on working to make a decent life affordable in this country, and that's the metric by which we'll ultimately be judged in 2026 and beyond. The number 3, the infighting is stupid. I care about my fellow citizens, particularly young Americans, being able to afford a decent life. I care about immigration and our sovereignty, and I care about establishing peace overseas so our resources can be focused at home. If you care about those things too, let's work together. And no word on the filibuster from J.D. Vance. So I know Trump, he's been megaphoning that over the last week or so about ending the filibuster, but you know, I guess it doesn't directly have anything to do with the election last night. So I guess that's probably not the right time and place for J.D. Vance to comment on that. Anyway, from GOP RNC senior advisor Danielle Alvarez on the new face of the Democrat Party, quote, Zohran Mamdani and his socialist policies are going to be front and center in these midterm elections.
What you're going to see is Zohran Mamdani and his socialist policies going to be front and center in these midterm elections. One of the things that Republicans have been talking about is that the Democrat Party is leaderless. And what you are seeing is the rise of Zohran Mamdani. Hakeem Jeffries and others have endorsed, of course, kind of giving Mamdani a sideways hug because they are all fighting again for that leadership slot. We have just seen again that rise of Zohran Mamdani in New York City and among the Democrat Party.
Shit, I'm muted. Uh-oh. Yep, so, yeah, that happened. He won in New York City. He won by quite a bit, even though, like, how many people are in New York City? There's got to be, like, well over 10 million people, or at least a greater New York. Yeah, but only 1 million people voted for him. But yeah, he's going to be New York's mayor. And yeah, not that many people came out to vote. Really, in general, a pretty small number of people, like not even 2 million people, I think, came out to vote for either candidate. So, all right. So, rapid response 47 from the president. If you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do with America, just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor. Our opponents are hell-bent on turning America into communist Cuba or socialist Venezuela.
If you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do to America, just look at the result of yesterday's election.
By the way, this is at the America Business Forum in Miami today.
In New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor of the largest city in the nation.
Hey, man, they voted for him. Fucking idiots, but
Remember,
they voted for him.
We will never have
if that's what they want.
Elected to any post in our country. I used to say that, and I was right. We skipped socialist and we put in a communist instead. That didn't work out too well.
From his home city,
but
no
as
less.
I've warned for many years, our opponents are hell-bent on turning America into a communist Cuba or socialist Venezuela, and you see what happened to those places. For generations, Miami has been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa. I mean, if you take a look at what's going on in parts of South Africa, look at South Africa, what's going on.
Thank God for the Second Amendment.
America, what's going on. You know,
that is the hill to die on.
G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa.
Just take a look at South Africa.
G's anymore. Because what's happened there is bad. I'm not going. I told him I'm not going. I'm not going to represent
I wouldn't go either.
There. It shouldn't be there. Take a look at what's happening in different parts of South America. Take a look at what's happening in different parts of the world. But now the Democrats are so extreme that Miami will soon be the refuge for those fleeing communism in New York City.
Probably.
They flee. Where do you live? New York City, but I'm trying to leave because I don't want to live in a communist regime.
Well, I know that some business leaders, some scholars, like economy scholars, they claim that the future of Miami is going to be a large financial hub or financial center in the U.S. So that could potentially be the case, maybe. Yeah, I know a lot of big companies. They've relocated to Miami. Extremely expensive to live in Miami, and if that's the case, if you're going to get a bunch of people from New York City moving to Miami, relocating, yeah, it's only going to get way more expensive, and there's not a whole lot of room to build in Miami. I mean, it's pretty much all built out unless they start, I guess, terraforming the Everglades more, which I think they've probably done to some extent, but I'm pretty sure that there's a Native American reservation. What is it, like Big Cypress? No, that's a preserve. So maybe it is the Big Cypress Preserve that borders most of Miami, but I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so Rapid Response 47, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez gives President Trump a key to the city. Quote, your leadership and your vision have shaped not only our nation, but also the future of our city. And don't forget, Miami-Dade, man, they voted for Trump. Yes, they did.
It's truly a great honor to be here with you this afternoon and to have you here once again in the great city of Miami. Your leadership and your vision have shaped not only our nation, but also the future of our city. Miami's success today is rooted in the values that are deeply American: opportunity, freedom, safety, and innovation. These are values that you have championed with conviction, and they are the same values that have made Miami a symbol of what's possible. When people believe in the promise of America, Mr. President, I want to personally thank you for your continued support of our vision for this city. It was an honor to stand beside you in the Oval Office when you announced the next year's G20 right here in the city of Miami. Thank you for choosing our city to host what is perhaps the most important and consequential gathering of leaders from around the world. Miami has come a long way, and we will rise to the occasion, Mr. President. On behalf of the people of Miami, it is my privilege and honor here, on behalf of my wife, the America Business Forum, Nacho, Sergio, and everyone, to give you like real estate, right? I do. Yeah. This is a key that opens some really nice presidential library real estate.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're building Trump's library in Miami. Nice fancy key to the city of Miami. Isn't the guy who invented air conditioning, I think it wasn't, didn't he live in Miami? I think he lived in Miami. I'm pretty sure. Speaking of which, yeah, this probably isn't really the appropriate time to mention this, but if you're into watching documentaries, you should check out the documentary Cocaine Cowboys from 2006. It is a crazy good documentary. It's one of my favorite documentaries, one of the best that I've ever seen. All about Miami, all about the drug wars, going back to like the 1970s, the cocaine wars with Pablo Escobar, and just crazy wild stories, man. Just absolutely great documentary. All right. So anyway, Secretary Marco Rubio, 1 year ago, President Trump was charged with restoring our country's greatness. Since entering office, he brokered 8 peace deals and championed our America First values globally. Because of his leadership, we are no longer a laughingstock. We are the hottest country in the world. 1 year of winning as of today. Remember, the 5th of November. Caroline Levitt, promises made, promises kept 1 year later. I'll take a look at this article. I know this one ain't going to paywall me because it's a government website. All right, so 1 year ago, the American people delivered a resounding mandate to President Donald J. Trump when they overwhelmingly reelected him to a historic second term. In just 10 months since his inauguration as the 47th president of the United States, he has moved with unprecedented speed and resolve to secure the border, drive down costs, restore public safety, and unleash American energy and prosperity. And momentum is building for even greater achievements ahead. And from the New York Times, Trump storms back. He defeats Harris and caps his resurgence from outcast to felon to president-elect. And from the Wall Street Journal, Trump triumphs again. Stopping the migrant invasion, promises made. We will close the border. We will stop the invasion of illegals into our country. That was on October 12th of last year. Promises kept under President Trump. The number of illegal immigrants crossing the southern border are at historic lows after his rapid action to close the border on day one, with the illegal crossings plummeting to levels not seen in decades and virtually no illegal aliens being released into the country's interior. Promises made. I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. July 21st of 23. Promises kept. The number of unaccompanied illegal immigrant children crossing into the country has reached a record low. At its peak under Biden, 4.6% of illegal border crossings were unaccompanied minors, many of whom were victims of trafficking. In the first 2 weeks of March under President Trump, that percentage had already fallen to just 0.4% of illegal crossings. And by the way, there's still the initial number was like 400,000 immigrant children that just disappeared into the U.S. We can't find them. Biden administration didn't keep track of them, just let them disappear. Hundreds of thousands of children just disappeared to God knows where inside our country. Absolutely terrifying. Oh, wait. All right. So the official White House number is 325,000. I've heard 400,000. I've heard 300 somewhere else. 325. Okay, I'll go with the 325. It is the White House after all. So they are either missing or dead. They came through the border. 325,000 children went through her stupid open border. That is Kamala Harris, because she was the border czar after all. And now they're either missing, dead, or slaves. If you want to end this disaster, you must get out and vote. That was on November 1st of 24. Promises kept. After the Biden administration lost track of 325,000 migrant children, the Trump administration located more than 13,000 of them. Still a terrifyingly small number of children that have been found so far. Again, I've seen another number. I believe it was Kash Patel who claimed that 16,000 had been recovered. I believe in total. I know quite a lot have been recovered by the FBI. I'm pretty sure the number is into the thousands that the FBI has located. Fulfilling President Trump's promise to do everything possible to save child victims of human trafficking. And the next one, under my leadership, we will seal it up and expand that wall until we have total control. That was on March 4th of 23. And the promise kept is President Trump resumed construction of the border wall immediately with dozens of miles of new construction underway, including new border barrier projects underway in El Paso and the Rio Grande Valley. And he also said, I will end catch and release. That was on October 12th of last year. The promise kept. Since taking office, the Trump administration has arrested 150,000 plus illegal immigrants and deported 139,000 plus illegal immigrants and released just 9 illegal immigrants into the U.S., a staggering 99.99% decrease over the same period last year under Biden. And the next one, we will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy, January 20th of this year. The promise kept. Soon after taking office, President Trump reinstated the Remain in Mexico policy, ensuring would-be illegal border crossers are not able to wait with little consequence in the U.S. for the resolution of their cases. So let me just take a look. Oh my God, dude, this goes on forever. Look at all this winning, man. It just doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Good grief, man. So much winning. There is no end to this. It's just going to go on forever. Oh my God. So much winning. Do you get sick of it? Are you getting sick of it yet? What about you, Democrats? You hate seeing all this winning, don't you? It just makes you seethe. Oh, it's just so infuriating to watch all of this America first winning. America getting our country back. The power is increasing ever more. So anyway, so I'll just read the highlights, or actually just the titles of each of these sections, because there's way too much to go over. Like, this is going to take me an hour to read all this. Carrying out the largest deportation operation in American history. Also stopping the migrant crime epidemic, as well as making America affordable again. I mean, definitely stop the rapid inflation that was occurring under Biden. I will definitely give that to the Trump administration. They put a stop to that. Housing has very slightly come down a little bit. I think automotive, new cars may have very slightly come down. But in my personal experience, I live in Florida, and things really haven't come down all that much except for gas. Gas has come down probably about, like, I don't know, I'd say maybe 50 cents or so. But to be fair, I haven't checked gas in like 2 weeks, so it might have even come down more since then. But anyway, so there's some highlights on that. Getting the gas prices down, of course. Vote for prosperity. I mean, of course, they're going to tout the stock market, which is rocking and rolling, hitting record highs. Bitcoin hit record highs a few different times this year. However, from the perspective of the middle class, though, we're still struggling a lot in the middle class. I mean, if I'm being honest. And they haven't really done a whole lot to combat that. I know Democrats, they keep talking about that. And the young American adults, especially the younger Gen Zs and the older Gen Alphas, they're paying attention. And the great American dream to own a house one day is completely out of reach for pretty much everybody who's under the age of, let's say, I don't know, 40, something like that. I did read somewhere, it was like 15 years ago, the average age of a new home buyer was 40 years old. And as of today, the average age of a first-time home buyer is 55 years old. Or maybe, actually, hold on. It was the average age of a home buyer, not a first-time home buyer. The average age of a home buyer was like roughly 40 years old. 15 years later, it's 55, meaning it hadn't changed, like the same age. It just keeps going up with age, and it's just getting more and more unattainable for young Americans to have any prospects with being able to own a house, at least not without being insanely house poor. So anyway, fortifying the American economy. Did I miss any? Okay, cutting taxes for middle-class families. That definitely happened under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which they passed in July of this year. However, I've read that they had to increase the national deficit in order to make that happen because they didn't cut enough of the government in order to lower taxes without having to add to the national deficit. So it wasn't crazy to hear that. But, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I guess people like their taxes getting lowered. So I guess you could call that a win. Fortifying the American economy, lowering drug prices, restoring peace through strength. Definitely happened. Strengthening and modernizing our military. He did that also in his first term. I think that at one point during his first term, he got almost $1 trillion that was put into the military to upgrade it. Also, unleashing American energy. That's definitely happening. Drill, baby, drill. Negotiating better trade deals. That goes without saying. I mean, he's been like white hot with that. Using tariffs as leverage, definitely. Revitalizing American manufacturing, absolutely happening. Most notably, Apple investing $600 billion into the United States, as well as NVIDIA. They're investing an insane amount of money, like just about every tech company, really. Anyone that I could think of, they're investing at least something into the U.S. for manufacturing. Ending the weaponization of government. Yeah, definitely. It's happening. Not a whole lot is happening with regard to prosecutions. I know the American people would love to see more movement on that. I don't know if AG Pam Bondi, if she's on the DOJ's ass for doing that. I guess obviously we'll take Comey, but there's a lot of others right behind him. So we're still waiting on that. Reforming the federal bureaucracy, definitely happening. Cutting costly, burdensome regulations. I've heard a lot of movement with that, especially in the Environmental Protection Agency. Returning education back where it belongs. I know that Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, is that who that was? I'm still trying to get fully familiarized with all the different secretaries, but yeah, she's a big advocate for that, for returning the education system back to the states, and she wants to end the Federal Department of Education. Although, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it's an act of Congress for that to actually be able to, or for that to actually happen, which pray one day it will. I mean, look, if the Republicans were to end the filibuster, there is a whole lot they can do in 3 years. They could end it. As far as I know, I'm no scholar, but pretty sure they could actually end the Department of Education if they get rid of that filibuster. I bet they could. I'm sure they could. Anyway, ending the radical left's insanity on race and gender. That's definitely happening. Keeping men out of women's sports, happening. Defending Americans' constitutional rights and protecting public safety, protecting Social Security and Medicare, securing our elections, keeping the U.S. as a global leader in AI, making federal architecture beautiful again, restoring safety and free speech to college campuses. You know what? Quick comment on this. I wonder if that means that they're actually putting those statues. Remember all those statues that the leftists, the progressives, and the Democrats were tearing down during the Biden administration? I wonder if the Trump administration is restoring all of them. Restoring safety and free speech to college campuses. Yep, a lot of college campuses got their asses sued off this year. Some of them settled. I believe it was UC Berkeley, and I think Harvard might have been another one. There were several where they settled for like well over $100 million. Anyway, ending the war on crypto and ensuring transparency in government and uniting the country through success. That is a hell of a long article. An insane amount of winning happening. That's definitely going to be linked in the description below if you want to take a good hard look at that. And I also got this from the White House. Not just words, action. No tax on tips or overtime. Mass deportations. The borders closed. Crushing the cartels. USA productions up. EV mandate happened. The withdrawal from the Paris Accord. And ending the Green New Deal. So let's take a look at this. About a minute long. Finally closing the border. Birthright citizenship. Done. Definitely happening. I got more on that here in a little bit. green ugly deal. The green ugly deal. That happened too. All that winning. And I got a couple of more posts with regard to the 1-year anniversary since Trump won the election, the historic election, all 7 swing states, and the popular majority. First time in 20 years a Republican candidate took the popular majority. Office of the DNI, 1 year ago today, the American people sent President Trump to the White House with a mandate to take back our country at ODNI. These are the historic results of President Trump's leadership. And the Office of the DNI, it oversees the U.S. intelligence community and serves as principal advisor to the president on intelligence issues, in case you wondered. And delivering on American people's mandate, they've exposed evidence of the Russia hoax, also rooted out deep state bad actors, and stripped radical DEI policies from the intelligence community. They built an elite mission-ready workforce based on merit and skill, directed counterterrorism efforts against violent cartels and gangs, thwarted narco-trafficking and child exploitation networks. They saved millions in taxpayer dollars by streamlining intelligence community operations. They revealed the Biden administration's weaponization on intelligence, labeling law-abiding Americans as domestic violent extremists. I think even more specifically with regard to those remember those city council meetings or the school board meetings. I think that was the big one. There were a lot of really pissed off parents that were showing up to school board meetings because their students or their children were telling them that like there's boys in the girls' locker rooms now and all that shit was going on. Yeah, the Biden administration was labeling parents of children domestic violent extremists. How do you like that? Also, they launched a weaponization working group aimed at whole of government accountability, and they strengthened relationships with intelligence partners around the globe, provided timely, accurate, apolitical intelligence to inform decision makers 24/7, and finally cracked down on classified leaks to the fake news. And Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, she heads up the DNI, or well, she is the DNI, the Director for National Intelligence. Okay, so NASA acting administrator Sean Duffy, he says 1 year ago today, the president achieved a historic victory that put us on the path to make America great again. Along the way, President Trump put us back on course to return to the moon under his term and then head to Mars. From election night to the final frontier, it's an honor to serve this administration and keep America first in space. And this is Donald Trump's True Social from today. Happy anniversary on this day, November 5th, 1 year ago. We had one of the greatest presidential victories in history. Such an honor to represent our country. Our economy is booming and costs are coming way down. Affordability is our goal. Love to the American people, President Donald J. Trump. I'm surprised this thing wasn't like 50 times longer than that, but maybe he was very busy today. Well, actually, yeah, he was. He was, giving speeches in Miami today. So this comes from the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who he was at the Supreme Court today. He was sitting in the gallery observing the oral arguments with regard to the tariffs. But he did have enough time to post all this, saying since Inauguration Day, market pundits and so-called experts have continually attempted to undermine the administration through negative rhetoric and fear-mongering, pushing narratives like sell America. And since that day, they have been dead wrong. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, tariff revenue, and lower inflation, the S&P 500 sits near all-time highs. And just as importantly, the U.S. Treasury market's total returns year-to-date are 6%. It's the best year since 2020 and the best of all developed bond markets this year. In fact, U.S. borrowing costs across the curve from 2-year notes all the way to 30-year bonds are down year-to-date. Other developed bond markets cannot say the same. The U.S. 10-year term premium is basically unchanged, while term premiums in other bond markets are rising. Lower Treasury borrowing costs mean lower corporate borrowing costs, lower mortgage rates, and lower car payments for Americans. The U.S. Treasury market is the world's deepest and most liquid market, and it shows. And we got an image. The U.S. 10-year yields have outperformed peers. So the dark blue is the U.S., the orange is Germany, the green is Japan, and the light blue is the UK. So yeah, it looks like the year-to-date change in 10-year yields. United States is substantially lower. Looks like, what was the number? 0.4% for the U.S., and it looks like the UK is sitting at about 0.1%. And let's see, where's Germany? It is up almost it's over 0.2. It's 0.25 or 0.3. And it looks like Japan is at 0.6%. And there you have it. So we're going to move on to Secretary Sean Duffy. It's an honor to serve President Donald Trump in making America great again alongside the best cabinet in history. And we are just getting started. By the way, Secretary Sean Duffy, he's the Secretary of Transportation, U.S. Department of Transportation. And of course, I already read that, so we can move on to the White House. Midweek reminder, don't be a panickin'. Trump's undeniable stock market victory that no one saw coming. I'm assuming that they've got the article below. Okay, I guess they don't. All right. Well, had I known that, I probably would have skipped past that one. But, I mean, that is, it's kind of an impressive headline coming from CNN, Trump's undeniable stock market victory that no one saw coming. It's pretty surprising to see that CNN's given Trump a win for a change. And this comes from FBI Director Kash Patel. No one is above the law. Iran hackers taunted Mr. Mustache John Bolton about stolen files that were allegedly classified. And FBI Director Kash Patel, he did link this article. I know this because I had a look for myself to make sure. And here we go. I'm just assuming the White House did. I just assumed the White House was going to link it. You know what? Should I do it? Should I actually just go and look for it? I mean, I suppose I could just go look for it. Hold on. Let me back up a little bit. All right, whatever. I'm not going to be too lazy tonight. Let's do it. Let's look for it. Trump's undeniable stock market. Okay, let's take a look at it. It was 2 days ago, so it's not within the last 24 hours, which is typical for my show for The Swamp. Everything I cover is within the last 24 hours. At least like 98% of everything is. So this comes from New York. 1 year after President Donald Trump's re-election, the U.S. stock market continues to notch record highs. The S&P 500 has gained 19.6% over the last 12 months, boosted by strong corporate earnings and investors' enthusiasm about artificial intelligence. Stocks have been remarkably adaptable, defying concerns about a resurgence in global trade tensions and bouts of intense volatility. Look, if any of you who are listening, if you're into the whole crypto thing, you probably noticed that it took one hell of a tank this week, especially with altcoin. Man, altcoin took a nasty dive just over the last few days, actually. And Bitcoin, I don't think that it quite dropped below 100,000, but it came pretty damn close. It came like within like $200 to dropping below 100,000. So, yeah, I mean, at least on the cryptocurrency front, it's on pretty shaky ground, and there's over $3 trillion worth of money in crypto currently. Of course, that's globally. Anyway, moving on to Trump, the market's gains are a vindication of his policies. The president on October 28th touted stocks record highs during a visit with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takeichi. Their stock market today and our stock market today hit an all-time high, Trump said. That means we're doing something right. But some analysts say the stock market's gains have a more prosaic reaction. Corporate earnings continue to impress Wall Street, and investors are betting big on AI. Quote, what happens in Washington matters, but it's not the only thing that matters, end quote, said Keith Lerner, chief market strategist at Truist. Quote, despite all the shifting narratives, the key theme for this year is the dominance of tech and AI and the continued resilience of corporate America, end quote. The S&P 500 soaring higher. Looks like this is over the last 12 months, and it is. Keeps going up and up. The rich keep getting richer. Ascent to all-time highs. The stock market's resilience has been surprising, said Jed Ellerbrook, portfolio manager at Argent Capital Management, considering Trump's pretty aggressive changes and approaches to U.S. trade policy and the Federal Reserve, which he has pressured to lower interest rates. Yeah, because the Democrats, and I'm sure a lot of business executives, everybody was screaming that the tariffs were going to just essentially like light the stock market on fire in all the worst ways possible. Hadn't happened. In fact, it is roaring full steam ahead, breaking records after records after records. But, all the Trump's big, bad, evil tariffs, they're just destroying American families. They're destroying American business. They're destroying everything, says the Democrats. Trump's introduced a lot of uncertainty into markets over the last year, Ellerbrook said. The market hates uncertainty. Well, obviously, as long as Trump's in charge, it doesn't seem to. Investors have turned their attention to the AI trade and tried to look past concerns about tariffs. He said, yeah, see, they've always got something else to blame. They always have an excuse when it comes to Trump. Well, the only reason why the tariffs haven't hit the Wall Street is because, AI. It's just like AI, bro. All right, so this AI investment cycle is homogeneous and unprecedented and overwhelming. Any and all of those things, Ellerbrock said. The S&P 500, which is weighted by market value, has become increasingly concentrated in big tech companies. NVIDIA, which just hit $5 trillion in market value, now accounts for 8% of the S&P 500's market value. That is fucking nuts, man. Absolutely nuts. $5 trillion. And what's crazy, before NVIDIA skyrocketed, like before AI became a thing, probably before, 2020, maybe 2021, of course, it wasn't anywhere near where it's at right now. It was really far away from where it is currently in terms of its value. But there's a lot of people that work in NVIDIA that hold stock options. They've held stock options in the company for probably over a decade, if not longer than that, just however long they've been working for the company. So like, every day workers that probably even make less than $100,000 in some cases, their stock value has ascended to a level that they're now worth over $1 million because they held stock options, and they were just, everyday run-of-the-mill employees that were working in NVIDIA. Apparently, a ton of people became millionaires while working in NVIDIA because of the stocks. Anyway, an equal weighted version of the S&P 500, which gives all the companies in the index an equal part, is up just 6% over the last 12 months compared to the benchmark index's 19.6% gain. Weathering tariff turmoil, the S&P 500 fell as much as 19% in April as Trump rolled out his plan for tariffs. But as markets tumbled, the Trump administration walked back its most severe proposals. Since then, the S&P 500 has coasted higher. The index is up 6 months in a row. Stocks may be higher in part because the administration's final tariff actions were ultimately less severe than initially feared, said Mark Malik, CIO at brokerage firm Siebert Financial. Let's see. Were it not for the tariff-driven swoon earlier this year, markets would likely be even higher today. Yeah, they always have to have something to throw at Trump. Well, if it wasn't for the tariffs, like the stock market would have totally been double what it is now. From Trump's election through the end of October, the S&P 500's rise was the 8th best for a president's first year since the end of World War II, according to CFRA research data. The S&P 500 climbed roughly 38% during the same period during President Joe Biden's term, marking the best performance on record. Meanwhile, the U.S. stock market's gains this year pale in comparison to global markets. In South Korea, the benchmark Kospi index has soared 66% across the past 12 months. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index has gained 28%. Benchmark stock indexes in Poland and Greece have gained roughly 52% and 60% respectively. Yeah, but didn't Greece, didn't their economy fully collapse in 2010 or something like that? Like Greece's economy fully imploded. So, 60% sounds good, but maybe it's not really as good as it might sound. But anyway, it goes on and on. So of course I'm going to link that, but I figured I'd at least get you started. If you want to read the rest of that, it'll be a link below. All right, so now I'm going to move on to FBI Director Kash Patel. No one is above the law, and we've got that here. X out of that. X out of that. All right. Oh, yeah, John Bolton indicted on 18 counts, mishandling classified information. So anyway, Iranian hackers taunted former National Security Advisor John Bolton about files allegedly obtained from his email account that they said were classified, wishing good luck to Mr. Mustache as they threatened to leak the materials. An unsealed search warrant affidavit reviewed by Fox News Digital revealed. Bolton pleaded not guilty in October to 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of retention of national defense information. He has been indicted on 18 counts related to the improper handling of classified materials. It was July 2021 when Bolton's assistant contacted the FBI via email to alert the agency that Iran had obtained access to Bolton's email account. According to the affidavit, Bolton's team had notified the FBI that it would be deleting Bolton's emails so the hackers could not obtain any additional sensitive information. Weeks later, Bolton's assistant contacted the FBI again to say he had received threatening emails that were believed to be related to the hack of Bolton's AOL account. That is absolutely hilarious that Bolton still had a fucking AOL account. Oh, man, you almost can't make that up. That's extremely funny to me. All right, so the email, the subject of which was new PW, as forwarded to the FBI, stated, "I do not think you would be interested in the FBI being aware of the leaked content of John's email, some of which have been attached, especially after the recent acquittal. This could be the highest scandal since Hillary's emails were leaked, but this time on the GOP side. Contact me before it's too late, according to the warrant. In August of 21, Bolton's assistant flagged another email from the same account that threatened to leak portions of Bolton's manuscript found in his email. So, quote, okay, John, as you want. Apparently, we'll disseminate the expurgated sections of your book by reference to your leaked email. The email said, good luck, Mr. Mustache. The affidavit in support of the search warrant from a raid on Bolton's home in September was unsealed and obtained by Fox News Digital. The affidavit supporting the search warrant revealed additional details about the case against Bolton. Classified information. According to the unsealed warrant, staff from the White House National Security Council visited Bolton's home on September 10th of 2019 to retrieve classified information in any government property after his termination as National Security Advisor. The government had created a sensitive compartmented information facility, also known as SCIF, in Bolton's home on September 17th of 2018. That SCIF was decertified on October 16th, 2019, according to the warrant. Based on my education, training, and experience, I know that the installation of a SCIF within the target residence indicated that Bolton anticipated storing classified materials within the target residence during his tenure as APNSA, the affidavit states. Once he was no longer APNSA, effective September 10th of 19, his need to know expired, and any authorization for having access to the classified documents in the target residence was subsequently revoked. And is this the charging affidavit? Let me see. Motion to intervene and unseal search warrant records. Anyway, this court document is 40 pages in length. So if you want to check that out, very extensive. It was December 2019 when Bolton submitted a draft on his manuscript, The Room Where It Happened, his memoir to Ellen Knight, the National Security Council Senior Director for Records, Access, and Information Security Management. Knight acknowledged receipt of the manuscript according to the warrant and notified Bolton that based on a preliminary review, the manuscript appeared to contain significant amounts of classified information, to include information classified at the top secret level. Knight suggested Bolton modify and resubmit the manuscript due to the large volume of classified information contained in it. And Knight indicated that in all her experience, she had never seen that level of classified material and specificity and detail in a manuscript submitted for review, the affidavit said. There were quotes from foreign leaders from negotiations with the president and details of foreign military actions which had not yet been publicly acknowledged by the foreign governments. Based on her experience in reviewing manuscripts for pre-publication review and the level of detail contained in Bolton's submission, Knight surmised that Bolton either had an incredible memory or had to be writing from notes he would have taken as a PNSA. Knight explained that any such notes were likely classified, fall under the PRA, and should have been turned over by Bolton at the conclusion of his government service, the affidavit read. So, all right, let me see how much we got. It looks like it's going to go on for quite a bit longer. But as always, I'll link it. Man, dude, usually Fox News doesn't usually have articles this extensive, but I mean, it's obviously an important it's an important article for sure, and it will be linked as well. I'll make sure that it's the top Fox News article in case I have more than one Fox News article. It's always possible doing this show because, you know, the GOP, the elected officials, they love to post Fox News articles all the time. But I'll make sure that's at the top because down in the description, it only shows part of the link. YouTube won't show the entire text of the link. So, you know, I have to at least make a mention of that. All right, so moving on to Homeland Security. For the sixth consecutive month, U.S. Border Patrol released 0 illegal aliens into the United States. Every individual apprehended was processed according to the law, a milestone unmatched in modern border history. And they linked an article to abcnews.go.com. Not going to go over the details because the post basically said it all. It said like the numbers are, here, let me at least show this. The numbers are almost 80% lower than in October of 2024. According to CBP statistics. Let's see. The daily average encounters along the border is 258 per day, 95% lower than the previous administration's encounter numbers, according to CBP. And this is on ABC News, by the way, left-wing ABC News. So they're reporting on the incredible border numbers. So that's good. On record, lowest on record. Homeland Security, Congressman, you are deliberately misrepresenting the facts. ICE law enforcement did not target a daycare. So let me go through this first before I finish that. So Mike Quigley, who is a Democrat, ICE isn't going after. No, all right, hold on. Yeah, okay. So never mind. All right, so ICE isn't going after the worst of the worst. This morning, they took a preschool teacher without a warrant in front of children in my district. Hashtag ICE. Hashtag Chicago. So let's take a look at this video. He clipped this video here. Very quiet, but they're not saying anything. Well, I guess they are saying something, but not going to hear it. Okay, so that's it. So without getting any background or any details on that, you really just have to take the Democrat at his word. And him saying that a preschool teacher, they didn't have a warrant. So now he's suggesting that ICE is, kicking in doors of preschools and daycare centers now in front of the poor children. And they're just snatching innocent people in front of them because they're like so dangerous and so evil. But anyway, according to Homeland Security, which is the government account of Homeland Security, according to the gray badge, that's what this gray badge is. It's a verified account. This account is verified because it is a government or multilateral organization account. It's been verified since December of 2009. And they've got DHS.gov, so 2.8 million followers. So it is the account for Homeland Security. And they say, Congressman, you are deliberately misrepresenting the facts. ICE law enforcement did not target a daycare and were only at this location because the female illegal alien fled inside. Here is the real story. Officers attempted to conduct a targeted traffic stop of this female illegal alien from Colombia. Officers attempted to pull over this vehicle, which was registered to a female illegal alien with sirens and emergency lights, but the male driver refused to pull the vehicle over. Law enforcement pursued the vehicle before the assailant sped into a shopping plaza where he and the female passenger fled the vehicle. They ran into a daycare and attempted to barricade themselves inside the daycare, recklessly endangering the children inside, which I don't know why that daycare didn't have locked doors. You would think that daycares, it would just be their policy that doors be locked at all times, especially like during like normal hours or whatever. Yeah, absolutely crazy. So they're saying daycare. The Democrats said preschool. I'm going to go with Homeland Security because they are the administration or the agency. So anyway, the illegal alien female was arrested inside a vestibule, not in the school. Upon arrest, she lied about her identity. The vehicle is registered in her name, though she claims that she didn't know the man who was driving her car and just picked him up from a bus stop. Facts including criminality and information on the male assailant are forthcoming, and we will update the public with more information as soon as it becomes available. So there's the real truth, according to Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security, I think that I would go with their word as opposed to Democrat Mike Quigley, who, in all appearance, seems to be wanting to gaslight everybody into believing that ICE agents are just busting open the doors and just rounding up all the poor, innocent, undocumented American migrants that are just innocently trying to take care of the poor children. So anyway, some of the comments, Democrats, they're not just stupid and misinformed. They're genuinely shitty people. Well, okay, yeah, you could call them that. I would just cross that out and put just straight up evil, which is a disgrace. They don't have to be evil. I really wish they weren't evil. I really wish that they still had some common sense left in that party, because this is obviously very reckless, very dangerous, very, backwards, de-evolving for America. Use whatever phrasing you want. I mean, anything the Democrats are engaged in today is just an absolute disgrace. Anyway, so Rep. Mike Quigley lying and defending illegal aliens instead of being infuriated that American children were put in danger. Nothing to see here, folks. Mike Quigley sounds like a Democrat. If his lips are moving, he most likely is spewing lies. Our leaders must be trustworthy. Yeah, they must be well, they should be trustworthy. They absolutely have to be, but unfortunately they're not. Facts matter. Thank you, DHS. Lawyer, doctor, profession, doesn't matter. If here illegally, they are criminal invaders. According to the above, the teacher is a hero and the ICE doing their job are the bad guys. When will folks understand law is either for one and all or none? Not sure whether to make heads or tails of that one. It kind of sounds like he might be siding with the Democrat on that one, which is kind of rare on this show because there's quite a few times I've actually scrolled through these comments trying to see if there's any support, and I often can't find any. Thank you, Ice. God bless you all. Anyway, go get her and her parents. Congressman, you're lying, and so much is so much shorter. Congressman, you're deliberately misrepresenting the facts. So anyway, let me just take a look and see. I'm assuming it probably got ratioed, although I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it did. 2-1. 1,100 likes, over 2,000 comments on his post. So definitely not getting much support from his comment, but apparently Democrats, they don't know how to Google anything anymore. They don't know how to read books anymore. They have no idea how to fact check anything. They just make up shit out of thin air. FBI Director Kash Patel. 2 additional suspects have been charged in connection with the alleged Halloween terror plot in Detroit last week. Grateful for the diligent work of U.S. Attorney Haba, the FBI, the Justice Department, and AG Pambandi in pursuing justice. Their efforts help save lives and keep Americans safe. And he posted this just 2 hours ago. And this is from U.S. Attorney Haba. So let's hear what she has to say.
Under President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi's leadership, protecting the homeland from radical Islamic terrorism and violent extremism is one of the Justice Department's highest priorities. The President's directives to federal law enforcement are very clear. Act quickly, work together, and stop threats before innocent people are harmed. Yesterday, my office, working hand in hand with the National Security Division in my office, did just that and charged 2 individuals by federal complaint connected to the Halloween terror plot in Detroit. The first suspect is charged with conspiring to provide material support to a designated terrorist organization. The second suspect is charged with transmitting
that would be ISIS, by the way,
anti-Semitic threats across the internet to individuals in the state of New Jersey and beyond. The threat of terrorism is real. When Americans are threatened, we respond fast, focused, and together. As alleged in today's complaint, from around October 4th, 2024 to November 4th, 2025, Tomas Khan Jimenez Gazelle of Montclair, New Jersey, and Saeed Ali Mareh of Kent, Washington, along with other co-conspirators, used encrypted messaging applications to plan travel to Turkey and then to Syria to join ISIS as fighters.
Encrypted messaging, maybe
in their
Telegram.
Communications,
I don't know.
They discussed detailed travel plans, physical training, weapons including...
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Did my internet go out? I don't think it went out. No, my internet's good. What the fuck?
Firearms and IEDs.
Well, that's a
and
first.
Methods to avoid law
Okay.
enforcement detection. According to the complaint, they pledged themselves to ISIS and were plotting acts of terrorism in our country. The messages also included photographs of Jimenez Gazelle standing in front of the ISIS flag, holding a knife, and Mareh wearing an ISIS hat. The complaint against Milo Sidarat charges 2 counts of transmitting threats to interstate and foreign commerce. It describes a pattern of anti-Semitic messages advocating violence, along with images and purchases consistent with preparation for attack, including a knife and sword collection, tactical gear, and images of him practicing at a gun range. Jimenez Gazelle and Sidarat are scheduled for initial appearances this afternoon in federal court.
I'm pretty sure they recovered like 3 AR-15s from him, too.
Mareh is scheduled for an initial appearance later today in the Western District of Seattle. Protecting the District of New Jersey and the United States, its people, its neighborhoods, and its institution is the core mission of our office. With our partners at the FBI and Maine Justice, we will continue to move swiftly and decisively whenever terrorism or hate threatens our communities. Thank you.
Amen. God willing. All right. And again, she's U.S. Attorney Haba, who had that message that was reposted by Kash Patel. And I'll move on to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. We got another one, ladies and gentlemen. Today, at the direction of President Trump, the Department of War carried out a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by a designated terrorist organization, DTO, assuming probably Tren de Aragua. Intelligence confirmed that the vessel was involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, transiting along a known narco-trafficking route and carrying narcotics. The strike was conducted in international waters in the eastern Pacific Ocean. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike, and 2 male narco-terrorists who were aboard the vessel were killed. We will find and terminate every vessel with the intention of trafficking drugs to America to poison our citizens. Protecting the homeland is our top priority. No cartel terrorist stands a chance against the American military. Well, yeah, that absolutely could go without saying. All right, let's check this out. Probably no sound. Yeah, no sound. It's just sitting there. And kaboom, splash. They're done for. On fire. Well, that's interesting, man. Most of them, as soon as they blow them up, they're like immediately sunk. That one looked like it was just chilling after they blew it up. It's got 4 outboard motors on it. All right, another one bites the dust. They took out another one. All right, DOW, rapid response. Every time we hit a narco-trafficking vessel, we save 25,000 lives. That's from President Trump
coming into our
today.
Country are way down. I'll tell you where they're really way down is drugs coming in through water. People are saying, no thanks. I don't think I want to ride in that boat today, please.
But yet they keep blowing them up, though.
We want you to take these drugs into the United States. You know what? I think I'll take a pass, sir. The drugs coming in by border are not much. Every boat that we hit kills, think of this, if it gets through, kills 25,000 Americans plus. But 25,000 Americans. Every time we hit a boat, we save 25,000 lives. Got to look at it that way. Drugs.
All right. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm sure that's probably not like an ironclad number. We don't really know. I'm sure it's probably an estimate, probably relatively accurate. I don't even know for sure, but I guess I'll take Meta's word for it. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Houston, 1,500 criminal aliens, gang members, foreign fugitives, and immigration offenders were arrested in a 10-day operation, including 17 gang members, 40 aggravated felons, and 1 convicted murderer, 1 foreign fugitive, 13 sexual predators, 115 aggravated assault offenses, and 31 weapons offenses. 1 Mexican mafia gang member wanted in his home country of Honduras for murder was convicted of raping and impregnating his minor sister. And assuming that they have him in custody as well. And they've got a video to this.
Oh, he's running. Call it out.
Rounding them up in Houston. 10-day operation. I don't think I heard about that, but it happened. 10-day operation. 1,510 days. That's impressive. President Trump and Secretary Noem have unleashed ICE to make America safe again during a 10-day period in Houston. ERO Houston, which is ICE Houston, arrested over 1,500 criminal illegal aliens. If you come to our country and break our laws, we will hunt you down. And this is from NBC News. While immigration and customs enforcement operations in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago have drawn fierce protests and extensive media coverage, immigration raids in Houston have quietly resulted in large numbers of arrests, according to data obtained by NBC News. ICE agents arrested more than 1,500 people in Houston over a 10-day stretch in October, according to its field office director, Brett Bradford. While it received less attention than other raids across the country, it resulted in a higher number of arrests per day on average. A 6-week ICE operation in Washington, D.C. from early August to late September resulted in 1,400 arrests. Damn, dude, over 6 weeks. And they got that number within 10 days in Houston. A 7-week operation in Chicago involving ICE and Border Patrol has led to the arrest of 3,800 immigrants since mid-September. And a 12-week operation in Los Angeles over the summer resulted in the arrest of 5,000 immigrants, according to DHS. The Trump administration has largely targeted sanctuary cities for large-scale immigration raids. Though Houston is run by a Democratic mayor, it is not a sanctuary city due to a 2017 state law that bans cities in Texas from passing policies that limit local police interaction with ICE. The ICE action in Houston last month followed 10-day operations in February and August that resulted in 543 arrests and 822 arrests, respectively, Bradford said. So maybe that's why they were so effective in Houston, was because it's not designated as a sanctuary city. All right. And House Democrats, looks like I'm going to be moving into the shutdown. Yeah, so we're heading into the shutdown and away from crime now. The American people are smart. Yeah, we are smart, most of us. They know Democrats are on their side fighting for health care, and they know Republicans aren't. Yeah, I don't know about all that. This is a Republican shutdown. I don't think so. This is from yours truly. Grok, are Senate Democrats required to reopen the government? I actually haven't looked at this answer. Oh, no. Senate Democrats aren't uniquely required to reopen the government. Congress must pass appropriations bills with majority support in both chambers. Then the president signs them. Shutdowns end through negotiation, not unilateral action by one party. Blaming one side ignores the shared constitutional duty, though political leverage often drives the stalemate. It looks like somebody actually replied to that. Grok, are the Republicans responsible for the maintained shutdown? Interesting. Let's see what Grok says to that. No, Republicans aren't solely responsible. Government shutdowns result from Congress failing to pass appropriations bills that can garner bipartisan support and presidential approval. Both parties bear accountability for prioritizing political posturing over compromise, as the Constitution assigns budgeting to the legislative branch collectively. History shows shutdowns end via negotiation, not finger-pointing, regardless of which side holds temporary leverage. Wow, man, Grok has taken quite a turn, because I posed that same question to Grok before, and it just absolutely said yes. Democrats are responsible for the shutdown because, I mean, it's common knowledge at this point. We need 5 Senate Democrats in order to reopen the government, unless Senator Rand Paul decides to change his mind and vote with Republicans, in which case we would need 4 Democrat senators in order to reopen the government. So that's where we're standing. All right, so let's head back. Come on. All right, so from Jack, breaking: Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are demanding an immediate meeting with President Trump and GOP leaders to end the government shutdown. Strange, right after election night. Makes you wonder. Yeah, so like Ted Cruz, he said that he believes that Democrats are going to finally vote to reopen the government now that the election is over, especially now that they've gotten the results that they were hoping for, because a bunch of Democrats ended up winning last night for election night. So not so sure, but they wrote this to President Trump, Hakeem Jeffries, and Cucky Cuck Schumer. We write to demand a bipartisan meeting of legislative leaders to end the GOP shutdown of the federal government and decisively address the Republican healthcare crisis. Democrats stand ready to meet with you face-to-face anytime and any place. Thank you for your attention to this matter. How much you want to bet Hakeem Jeffries wrote that? Because he was trying to get it to rhyme at the end. You know, a Timu Obama, isn't that what they're calling him? So, yeah, because they're asking him so nicely. You know, like talk about like a slap in the face request. You know, some like backhanded insistence to meet. And this comes from Chucky or Fuck Schumer. Should I go with Fuck Schumer? Maybe Schmuck Schumer? Is that over the line? I don't know if that's a little bit too spicy. Going with Schmuck Schumer or Cuck Schumer. I kind of like the Cuck Schumer one. Anyway, news. Rep. Jeffries and I are once again demanding Donald Trump and the Republicans sit down with us, end their shutdown, and fix their healthcare crisis. Donald Trump, Democrats are ready to meet with you face-to-face, anytime and any place. U.S. Senator, oh yeah, by the way, that got, of course, ratioed. U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith from November the 4th, so it's a little bit over 24 hours. Over the past month, Senate Democrats have had more than a dozen opportunities to spare everyday Americans from unnecessary hardship that this shutdown has caused, yet they've refused because, by their own admission, Democrats are using our first responders, children, and seniors as political leverage. That word alone should make every American's blood boil. So let's call it what it is: extortion. It's time for Democrats to stop the political games, open the government, and put the American people first.
We are now on the verge of the longest government shutdown in American history. What started as a political stunt more than a month ago has now become a direct hit on hardworking Americans. While Democrat leaders spend their time attacking the White House, campaigning for a radical socialist to run New York City, and pushing for taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants, Republicans have voted repeatedly over the past month to reopen the government and get this country moving again. Meanwhile, TSA agents and air traffic controllers are showing up to work without pay, and flights across America are being delayed or canceled. Our men and women in uniform, those who put their lives on the line for our freedom, are missing their paychecks. Border Patrol agents standing between our communities and a flood of illegal drugs and crime are working without a dime. And now SNAP benefits are halted, cutting off food assistance for millions of struggling families, exactly what Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins warned would happen well in advance if Democrats refuse to act. In fact, Senate Democrats have had more than a dozen chances over the past month to avoid inflicting hardship on everyday Americans. And why is this happening? Because by their own admission, Democrats are using our first responders, children, and seniors as leverage. Leverage? That word alone should make every American's blood boil. This is not leadership, it is extortion and hostage taking. Enough is enough. It's time for Democrats to stop the games, open the government, and start putting the American people first.
All right, or you can end the filibuster. You could do that too. That's also a potential option. Senate Republicans, President Trump, it is time for Chuck Schumer and the radical Democrat Congress to stop playing games with people's lives and to pass a clean funding bill. Reopen government immediately.
It's time for Chuck Schumer and the radical Democrat Congress to stop playing games with the people's lives and to pass a clean funding bill that they've done 30 times before. And to reopen government immediately. Just reopen it.
Well, with regard to the CR bill, I think it technically is 13 times that they've passed that exact same bill over and over all throughout the Biden administration. They passed the same CR bill, but all of a sudden, Democrats don't want to vote for it now. Rep. Vern Buchanan, thank you to the Food Bank of Manatee for hosting an amazing food drive yesterday and serving those in need. The 40,000 people in Manatee County who rely on SNAP benefits currently paused under the Democrat shutdown shouldn't have to worry about when their next meal will come, which is in my neck of the woods. It's just south of where I live. Take a look. Doesn't look like this Republican's on vacation. That's what the Democrats keep saying. All right, moving on to Gus Bilirakis. This week, I visited one of Pasco County's senior congregate dining sites to hear directly from participants about how the government shutdown is affecting them. And Pasco County is the county just north of me. So I got Manatee County to the south of me, and I got Pasco County just bordering the north of my county, which is Pinellas. So anyway, fortunately, the Area Agency on Aging of Pinellas and Pasco has partnered with Pasco County to provide additional take-home meals to help offset the loss of SNAP benefits. All right, so doing everything that they can in the face of the Democrat shutdown. Chucky Cuck Schumer again. The American people are tired of Donald Trump raising people's costs, rising healthcare costs, and ignoring the needs of working people. The American people have spoken. Enough is enough. 1,000 to 2,000, 2-to-1 ratio. Let's hear what he has to say. This ought to be fun.
Was a shellacking for
a shellacking.
For Donald Trump.
A schmuck shellacking. Schmuck Schumer.
Country to the other. The American people said enough is enough. The American people said enough with Republicans' relentless attacks on health care. And they also said enough with the cruelty, the corruption, the chaos that define MAGA radicalism.
Yeah, is that getting old yet for them just to constantly blame Republicans for the exact healthcare problem that they created? They originated Obamacare. They wrote the legislation. They passed it with absolutely zero Republican votes, not a single one. None. Zero. Flat zero Republican votes to pass Obamacare. And then all the subsidies that they've passed to keep it propped up like a house of cards, not a single Republican voted for any of those either. This is absolutely 100% on the Democrats. And it's just so funny how they're just desperately trying to hope that everyone who votes Democrat just conveniently forgets about that. And, oh yeah, I guess it was Republicans, just practically begging for just everybody to just all of a sudden just be NPCs, which, to be fair, a lot of Democrats, they do appear to be NPCs these days. They just believe literally everything that's told to them.
When they see that Trump doesn't want to help them with health care or paying for food for needy people, but sending $20 billion to Argentina and saying his most important thing he can do is tear down the wall in the White House.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If they want to pass more subsidies to keep Obamacare artificially propped up, where's that money coming from? Where's it going to come from? Are they just going to add it to the national deficit? Just throw it up to $40 trillion, $50 trillion, $100 trillion. Who gives a shit? Like, why not just jack up the national deficit to $50 septillion? Because it doesn't really seem to matter, I guess. Even though, what is it, like 20% of the entire federal budget is just paying interest on our national deficit. So 20% of all government spending has to go only to the interest of the national deficit. And I've seen numbers at like 25%. I believe that they're expected to have to pay interest on the debt by 2030. And like by 2050, they're expecting at least 50% of all government spending is going to only go to interest, to the credit card interest of our federal government. And how is that sustainable? What happens when the federal government reaches a point where, I don't know, we hit 75% or we hit 85% of all government spending has to just be chalked up to the national deficit? Are they going to have to skyrocket taxes? I mean, the money's got to come from somewhere. Or are they just going to just start writing out debt to pay for the debt that's on the debt? Is that what they're going to do? Start writing IOUs for the IOUs, for those IOUs that are going to eventually go toward paying back the national deficit? It makes no sense. And that's exactly what I believe that they want to do. They just want to throw it up to the national deficit, just keep these subsidies going forever without addressing any of the rooted problems. They don't want to get to any of the root of the problems. They just want to keep just throwing endless money at it. Even though the longer that they add subsidies to Obamacare, just kicking the can down the road, the worse it's going to be when, whether it's the American people or the elected officials will finally say, look, this is enough. We have to end this subsidy situation because, like, if we end these subsidies, like what they keep saying that, like for some middle-class Americans, their Obamacare, with the subsidies that have ended as of November 1st this year, some of them are going to see their healthcare costs go up to $2,000 a month. Or $3,000 a month. Well, if they kick this can down the road another 3 years or 5 years or however long, and then they end the subsidies down the road, it's going to be like $5,000 a month and $8,000 a month. And they're just essentially trying to back everybody into a corner where we just have to forever subsidize Obamacare because, God forbid, we ever remove those subsidies, we're going to get the situation like we're seeing right now, where these subsidies are going to go up more than 100% overnight. And it's all by the Democrats doing 100%.
So last night was a really good night for Democrats. And our fight to lower costs, improve health care, and reach a better future for our country. The American people have spoken. It's about time the Republicans finally listen.
Well, there's only one way that they could lower these healthcare costs under their program, and that's by jacking up taxes for everybody. And we all know that Democrats, they absolutely love raising taxes because they like taking money away from you and giving it to people who just don't feel like working, unwilling to work. Let's give them all the entitlements and all those entitlement programs. Meanwhile, yeah, there's not a few, but there are a sizable amount of people who are truly disabled or elderly. Like there are people who do benefit from these programs, but there is a hell of a lot of people who don't have any business being on these programs. But Democrats just want to throw it out to everybody who wants it. Like the good example that the SNAP benefits program went up 40% under Joe Biden, which happened to be the same amount of time when millions and millions of illegal immigrants were pouring across the border. I mean, do you think those two might be correlated? Probably. Anyway, Senator Jack Reed, Republicans' refusal to fix President Trump's healthcare crisis means thousands of Rhode Islanders are at risk of losing health insurance and thousands more will pay double for the same plan they have now. Senate Democrats have a solution to lower your costs and reopen the government. Health Source RI employees could see monthly insurance premiums double next year. And Health Source RI monthly premiums set to double on average with federal tax credits expiring. Rhode Island's healthcare exchange estimates the higher costs may lead to more than 13,000 people dropping coverage. Yeah, that's what it's going to end up having to come down to. People are not going to be able to afford it because everything else has gone up sky high thanks to Biden, the Biden administration. All kinds of shit is a lot more expensive than it was in previous years, with groceries going up 30% under Biden, just that alone. Plus, like, you don't even have to get us started on the other types of health or of insurance, like mortgage insurance homeowners. Car insurance has gone up like crazy for tons of people. And credit cards, those are at a max or record breaking right now. I think we're up to like, $1.6 trillion in total credit card debt. It's like damn near like $10,000 on average for each credit card holder across America. It's absolutely ridiculous. So this is another one I got from Hakeem Jeffries. So last night it went pretty long. So I'm just going to repost this. I'm sure it's going to be a lot more of the exact same thing, just another copy-paste bullshit speech that he gave. The same thing that he gave last night with all the softball questions, all scripted, and not a whole lot of people saw it. Here, I'll at least get the number of people who tuned in. 9,300, so basically the same amount, which is virtually nobody in the grand scheme of things. Nobody's watching his bullshit. But I do have an interview that Hakeem Jeffries gave on the mainstream news last night. I think it was on NBC. Maybe it might have been CBS, but I do have that. It's like a 7-minute interview with regard to the election last night, so I'll at least play that. That's coming up here in a minute. And this comes from Caroline Levitt. Now is the time to nuke the filibuster, which this is going to be found on foxnews.com. And look, that Hakeem interview, maybe I'll save that for the weekend. You know, maybe I'll just do it then. Because it's like a half an hour, and it's just honestly going to take a long time. I think my show last night went like almost 2 hours and 20 minutes because I tried to get through the entire thing, but it was just dragging on too long, and he was completely full of shit every fucking second of that interview, or that speech, rather. So anyway, the argument seems to pop up every few years or so whenever one of our political parties controls the House, Senate, and presidency. Should they end the 60-vote Senate threshold known as the filibuster to advance their agenda? This is called the nuclear option for good reason. It would blow up the current system, allowing a single party with a simple majority to essentially pass anything it wanted with no opposition. But as we enter the second month of the government shutdown, President Donald Trump is right to put this atomic idea on the table. Let's start with the very real downsides. As I can already see, moderates of both parties tearing at their hair as they read this. If Republicans pull the trigger on the filibuster, then the next time the Democrats, who are now socialist in all but name, take power, and they will eventually, a progressive parade of horrible seems all but certain. Yeah, but look, if the Democrats take over in the Senate again, couldn't they just nuke it regardless? I mean, like, because the Republicans, they only have a slim majority right now. What if the Democrats end up with a slim majority in the Senate? Couldn't they just do the exact same thing regardless if Republicans nuke it first? I suppose if they nuked the filibuster first, they would at least get a head start on the situation, as opposed to not do anything about it. And, President Trump's policies, his programs, his agenda will almost move like not at all in the Senate in the meantime until he leaves the presidency. And God forbid if a Democrat comes in and they nuke the filibuster, then, it would basically be all for nothing, really. So I don't know. I get the arguments that perhaps they should just nuke the filibuster because the Democrats are probably just going to come in and nuke it regardless. I'm sure they're probably going to anyway, especially after what Trump mentioned last night with regard to 2 senators that were fighting against nuking the filibuster when the Democrats were in power last time. Those 2 senators aren't in here anymore. They're not in the Senate anymore. So now there's not really technically probably any pushback from the Democrats having that ability to do that. But anyway, would the Democrat socialists pack the Supreme Court? Yeah, of course they will. Make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states? Probably. Provide free abortion up to 9 months along with gender transitions? Yeah, probably. But what if Democrats are likely to blow up the filibuster at their next chance anyway, even if the GOP declines to? That's a fair point. The last time this issue came up during the Biden administration, there were only 2 Democrat senators who opposed the idea, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, neither of whom have letters after their name anymore. Today, the only Democrat in the upper house who even resembles them in their willingness to buck the party is Senator John Fetterman, but he has already said he supports ending the filibuster to solve the current shutdown. There's plenty of reason to think that Democrats will blow up the filibuster eventually, regardless of what the GOP does. And like chess, there could be a big advantage to going first here. Playing the white pieces means that your opponent's priority has to be to neutralize what you have done, not to advance their own attack. Only the very best players can do both. Nuking the filibuster would give Trump and Republicans at least 1 year to pass anything they want. 3 years if they hold the Congress in next year's midterm on issues like tax breaks, codifying the secure border, and supercharging energy production. They could prove very popular. At that point, should Democrats come back into power, they would first have to try to unwind GOP legislation that many people would like before embarking on their own attempts to transform the country. That's a fair point too, though. Notice that even when they had the votes, Republicans have never been able to overturn Obamacare. Once people get used to something, it tends to stick. The fact is that the 60 vote threshold used to be far more attainable because the Senate's had factions that cross parties, blue dog Democrats, pro-choice Republicans, but today with the parties in lockstep, compromise is proving impossible. It is a difficult balance between the filibuster strangling the Senate's ability to pass anything and the potentially dangerous changes at breakneck speed that eliminating it would occasion. There are those of both the left and the right who essentially argue that gridlock is a good thing. The argument is not without some merit. Much of the federal law Congress passes does more harm than good, and smoothlining the system would only create more of it. But today, with the government shutdown and no end in sight, Americans have to ask themselves that this artificially constructed hurdle to doing the nation's work has become unworkable, like a broken gate at a parking garage where nothing can pass. Donald Trump is the president of the United States for the second time, largely because he promised to break things, to bust up the deep state's hegemonic control over the government. And make no mistake, when Congress refuses to act, it is the bureaucracy that truly holds power. There is an episode of The Simpsons in which a Bond villain is threatening to launch a bomb, and the member of the United Nations wants to give in to him, saying, "We can't afford to take that chance," to which another replies, "You always say that. I want to take a chance." That may be the point that Americans are at with our unpopular, dysfunctional, and filibuster-blocked federal legislature. They may be willing to take this chance, even if it is a nuclear one. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure. I would be honestly just plain shocked if Republicans actually do nuke the filibuster. I don't think they're going to do it. I just really don't. I just don't think that Republicans have it in them. They're just not big risk takers. They've really just never been. They've never had balls. They just never had any, at least not in recent memory. So I guess in the short term, of course, that would be nice, especially if Republicans really did just push through as much as they could possibly push through. That would be helpful for America, not harmful. Because whoever wrote that said that the Democrats would have to spend a lot of their time the next time they take power trying to roll back everything that the Republicans have put into place. And like they said, once something is in and once it's been normalized, it's pretty hard to roll it back because it just becomes the new normal. But yeah, I mean, look, if they're even considering that, they better consider fast because the midterms are coming up. They don't want to be sitting on this and then decide to nuke the filibuster with 2 months until the midterms or something like that. I mean, now would be sooner the better. I guess that's where I'll leave it. All right, rapid response 47. Breaking. Secretary Sean Duffy announces a 10% reduction in scheduled flight capacity at the nation's top 40 high traffic markets due to the Democrat shutdown strain on air traffic controllers.
I anticipate there will be additional disruptions. There will be frustration. We are working with the airlines. They're going to work with passengers. But in the end, our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible. The administrator is going to talk about all of the tools we're going to deploy. One of them, though, is going to be that there is going to be a 10% reduction in capacity at 40 of our locations. The administrator is going to tell you that this is data-based. This is not based on what airline travels, has more flights out of what location. This is about where is the pressure and how do we alleviate the pressure.
And it's only going to get worse as the next couple of weeks roll through with Thanksgiving coming up, Christmas season coming up. I'd be curious to know if or how many people have decided to just cancel their flight plans or maybe just decide to drive to wherever they plan on spending the holidays. Or maybe even some might even be canceling their holiday plans outright. I don't know. But I'm sure it'll probably get to a point where it might be too late as far as trying to get refunds and all that stuff. But I can only imagine how nightmarish it's going to be if they keep the government shut down, which I think they're going to. I don't think they're going to reopen the government this week or next week, or probably not for the rest of the year. Congressman Troy E. Nehls, this could be avoided if at least 5 Senate Democrats buck chuck and vote to reopen the government. Breaking, the Department of Transportation might be forced to shut down airspace in certain parts of the country if the government shutdown continues into next week, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said on Tuesday. This is on abc.go.com. The Department of Transportation might be forced to shut down the airspace in certain parts of the country if the government shutdown continues into next week. So if you bring us to a week from today, Democrats, you will see mass chaos, he said. You will see mass flight delays. You'll see mass cancellations, and you may see us close certain parts of the airspace because we just cannot manage it because we don't have the air traffic controllers. Look, this could be the final nail in the filibuster's coffin as far as the Republicans are concerned. Maybe this might actually get them to end the filibuster potentially if things get bad enough during the Christmas season, just with regard to travel in general. And if that's the case, I really hope that they have a real serious conversation amongst both the members of Congress, or the senators, and also the House members, and they really have this like serious talk about all of the things that they're going to railroad in that's helpful, not harmful, but helpful for the country if they decide to nuke the filibuster, because I don't think it, or at least it wouldn't surprise me. I can't speak for everybody, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were to nuke the filibuster just to reopen the government and they don't pass shit for the next 3 years. They just sit on their hands and they just don't do anything. They just sit around and just let things just be as normal it could possibly be under the circumstances. But I don't know, man. Hopefully, whatever it is that they decide to do, hopefully, it doesn't get too destructive down the road. Although I don't really see our country getting any better anytime soon, especially with Democrats and their insane rhetoric, their psychopathic rhetoric, and all the gaslighting and the propaganda, and they're just going to keep doubling down. And what's it going to get to? I don't know. All I'm saying is just cling on to the Second Amendment as tight as you fucking can. That's really the best advice that I got. All right, so anyway, so I got through that. So nearly 50% of all major air traffic control facilities face staffing shortages, according to the Federal Aviation Administration. Air traffic controllers are required to work without pay for the duration of the shutdown. About 13,000 air traffic controllers are currently working without pay, according to the FAA. On Friday, the agency said that 80% of New York area staff had called out. What? Holy shit. On Friday, 80% of New York area staff had called out. So I don't know if maybe they're considering flying in air traffic controllers from other airports to try to cover it. I don't know. Is that even possible to do that? If you're an air traffic controller in let's say Miami, and they've got an 80% shortage in New York, and they're fully staffed up in Miami, but they could do with like 5 less. Could they take those 5 air traffic controllers from Miami and put them up there in New York? Or do you have to have like intimate knowledge of the New York airport, whichever one that you're going to be stationed at, in order to effectively do your job? Or could you be an air traffic controller and work in any airport and it makes no difference whichever one you work at? I can't help but think that you have to have some well-rounded knowledge as to just the layout of the airport, the geography of the surrounding area. And it may not be so easy to simply say, hey, you want to go up to New York for a week and cover things up there? Hopefully it's that simple, because then they could do just that. They could, shift people around from this airport to that airport to try to keep things running as smoothly as possible. Especially if the Atlanta airport starts taking heavy losses in air traffic control, because that's the busiest airport on the planet. But anyway, quote, these hard-working Americans have bills to pay, and they are being forced to make decisions and choices, Duffy said Monday of air traffic controllers at an unrelated event in Philadelphia. Quote, do they go to work as an air traffic controller, or do they have to find a different job to get resources, money, to put food on the table, or to put gas in their car? And as every day goes by, I think the problem is only going to get worse, not better. And he said last month that air traffic controllers could be let go if they didn't show up for work. Wow. So when you come to work, you get paid, Duffy said October 9th. Let's see, if you don't come to work, you don't get paid. If we have some on our staff that aren't dedicated, we're going to let them go. Well, I mean, that was way back on October 9th. So not sure if maybe things have possibly changed. not so sure, but I mean, I'm sure Secretary Duffy, like he's pleading with them to keep coming to work. However, if they say, look, I got no choice, man. I'm in debt I was in debt before this whole shutdown started. Like, I have to go and find a job somewhere else. I don't know. All right, Rep. Richard Hudson, let's call it what it is. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are scared stiff of AOC and Zohran Mamdani. They shut down the government because they didn't want to anger the radicals running their party. It really is that simple. I don't know if it's really that simple. Yeah, that's definitely an element of it. I also think that Democrats mainly did it just because F Trump. They just hate Trump and they don't want Trump's policies to go any farther than they have at this point. And by shutting down the entire government, I mean, in some way or another, they're kind of achieving that agenda. Or they want the Republicans to nuke the filibuster so they won't have to. And that way, if they get control of the Senate again, then they're going to have one hell of a crazy, radical, far left, dystopic agenda that they're going to push through. That's going to make it a nightmare for all of us. Because, yeah, it packing the Supreme Court, all that's just all the beginning, man. That's just all the stuff that we know that they would do practically on day one. And, of course, in order to make, full-on constitutional amendments, they need a supermajority to do all that. But I'm sure that's not going to stop them from trying to, suppress things like the Second Amendment as much as they possibly can. Like what they did, when was that? In the 90s? I think it was in the 90s under Bill Clinton. They did like a nationwide ban on quote unquote assault rifles, basically AR-15s and, magazine fed. I don't know what the technical, like 30 round magazine fed rifles, whatever it was that they called assault rifles. But yeah, I mean, you better believe that's going to be coming back if that were to happen. All right. So from Tom Emmer, my grandfather's Democrat Party is dead. Nothing proves it more than their hostage tactics over the last 36 days and their willingness to elect a communist to run the largest city in America.
The Democrat Party of today is not your grandfather's Democrat Party. Nothing proves it more than last night's election results. From a communist mayor in New York City to a Virginia attorney general who said he wanted to murder his political opponent, pro-terrorist Marxist radicals are now the left's mainstream. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. That is a direct quote from Commie Mamdani, and it should terrify every single freedom-loving American. This is the land of insanity Chuck Schumer and company have enabled with their party's political games, and now they must own the consequences.
But look, dude, I don't think that they're scared of the far left radicals. They've become the far left radicals. Anyone who's an elected official, especially on the federal level, who's a Democrat, they are the far left now. They have embraced them. They have become them. They have transformed themselves into far leftist Marxists, except John Fetterman. All right, so Aaron Rupard, Mike Johnson, quote, I think the midterm is going to be a great one for us, and I'll just let him say it himself.
Eruptions. They've assaulted ICE officers. They have spurred on political violence, and they closed down the government, which is their most basic duty and responsibility. I think the American people are smart. I think they will understand this, and I think the midterm is going to be a great one for us. We had a demographic shift in 2024. We have a very favorable election map on the Republican side, and it will be even more favorable once all the redistricting stuff is settled out. We have Democrats who are flailing. They have no leader. Their national leader now, as we've noted, is Mamdani. He's a communist. Good luck with that.
Look, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's more difficult for them to try any like a rigging of elections, blanket ballots, mail-in ballots all over the place. Like they don't really quite have all of that going for them like they did in 2020. So yeah, the Democrats definitely do have some challenges ahead of them as far as just trying to railroad the votes to get the Democrats overwhelmingly elected. However, I'm sure they've got their own tactics that they're going to try to work out. That's when a lot of that bullshit, shady business ends up happening during the election season with Democrats. All right, so Secretary Marco Rubio, the remains of Itay I honestly can't pronounce his name. Itay Chin, a young American taken hostage by Hamas at just 19 years old, has finally returned home. We honor his life, mourn his loss, and stand with his family. That's from Secretary Marco Rubio. So yeah, one by one, they're returning the remains of the hostages that Hamas had taken back on October 7th of 2023. Okay, so I've got this. Hakeem Jeffries on NBC News last night. So it was on NBC News, and this is going to be on YouTube. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know it played actually on here on PC. If it's on my phone, it actually just opens up into YouTube. So this is convenient. All right, so this is from last night, Hakeem Jeffries. So we'll take a look at this. All right, whatever. I'll just play it on YouTube. It's probably better quality anyway. If it'll play.
We want to turn to our next guest. Joining me now is New York Representative and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, thank you so much for joining us on this election night.
Good evening. Great to be with you.
It's great to have you. I'm here with my colleague, Hallie Jackson. We've got a couple of questions for you. We have to start in your home city right here of New York. You did, in the home stretch, endorse the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani. As you know, President Trump endorsed Andrew Cuomo overnight. Governor Cuomo telling me today he thinks, yes, that's going to earn him a few more of the Curtis Sliwa votes. Do you think that Mamdani can have a victory tonight?
Look, if he was going to endorse Andrew Cuomo, he should have endorsed him like a month ago. He should have endorsed him a long time ago. Like, endorsing him at the very last minute ain't really going to help in the grand scheme of things.
Be the next mayor of the city of New York. He's run a relentlessly focused campaign on affordability. The cost of living is way too high in New York City, in the communities that I represent, and all across the city of New York.
And how are they going to fix that? With rent freezes, with taxing everybody, and trying to smooth it out. Like, they're trying to roll in socialism and communism.
In fact, is the case we know throughout the country. And of course, Donald Trump
free bus rides,
kept his promise to lower costs. In fact, he said he was going to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down. They're going up all across the country. Grocery prices up, housing costs up, childcare costs up, utility prices.
Well, hold on, Hakeem Jeffries. Why is everything up? I mean, who was the president before Trump? Who was the president like today, a year ago? It was Joe Biden, right? He was a Democrat, if I'm not mistaken. Like, the Democrats at one point, they were in control of everything when Joe Biden was in office. So why does Donald Trump have to bring down the cost of anything? Are you trying to suggest that there was a high cost of living? So if there was a high cost of living, you would have to concede that it was the Democrats' fault. So if Donald Trump hasn't brought down the high cost of living, it's still owned by the Democrats because they were the ones that jacked up that cost of living in the first place.
Through the roof. And now, as we've been working our way through this Trump shutdown in Washington, D.C., Republicans want to increase health care premiums on tens of millions of Americans because of their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credit. So I think Zohran's going to win. And it's going to be incumbent upon all of us in the city of New York.
All that bullshit that he just peddled out, it had nothing to do with the question that she asked at all about, like, endorsing Mamdani and what do you think about Mamdani? What the fuck does that have to do with Trump at all? You know, I bet, like, right now, I wouldn't suggest doing it because you might end up, you know, off, like, Control-Alt-deleting yourself. But if you were to take a shot every time from this point forward to the end of the video, every time that he says Donald Trump,
sure that he is as successful a mayor as he can possibly be.
So, Leader Jeffries, it's Hallie Jackson, by the way. Thanks for being with us. Let me ask you this, because you've also suggested that Zohran Mamdani is not the face of the future of the Democratic Party. And there
he didn't suggest that. He said that.
You're wrong on that, who think he potentially has real appeal beyond simply New York City.
How much you want to bet he's not going to answer that at all? He's not going to answer that at all. He's going to pivot immediately. He's going to take a hard left turn and go straight toward Donald Trump.
We could talk all day about how special and unique New York
is.
Well,
the Trump and the cost of living, man.
You necessarily will extrapolate
the Obama health, or the Trump health care. Totally not Obama health care.
Lines you see now that you might be talking with your conference about come 2026 ahead of the midterms. If, you know, you've seen already Abigail Spanberger sail to a win, if Mamdani comes out big in New York, if Mikey Sherrill's able to pull it out in Jersey.
Well, it's my expectation that Mikey Sherrill is going to be the next governor of the state of New Jersey, that we're going to win the statewide races in Pennsylvania. We're going to crush it in California. We've seen Democrats actually win statewide in Georgia. And of course, Abigail Spanberger coasted to victory. And it looks like every single Democrat on the statewide ticket in the Commonwealth of Virginia is also going to win. This is a rout for Democrats all across the country. Now, as House Democrats, what we've said from the very beginning of this year is that we need to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living and fixing our broken healthcare system that Donald Trump and Republicans are making worse.
Here we go. Take a shot.
The day. And as long as we
don't do that.
on these
drinking's bad.
pocketbook issues, while, of course, addressing the extremism that Donald Trump and Republicans continue to unleash
Here we go again.
on the American people. What we're seeing tonight is going to be replicated a year from now when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
You think they could do the Senate as well? You just called it a rout tonight. It sounds like you think they'll flip the House. You think they could do the same for the Senate?
I think the Senate is going to be a big surprise a year from now, particularly if the trend lines continue to move in our direction. Keep in mind, listen, we've won every statewide race that has been held this year, starting with the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race in April. We've won all of the high-profile special elections, beginning in a state Senate seat in Iowa.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of blue
January,
states.
Donald
I don't think
Trump
that's the
had
biggest
just
surprise
won
ever.
A few months prior by 21 points. And so what we're seeing tonight is the culmination of something that has been building since the very beginning of the Trump presidency, which has been a complete and total failure of Republican control of government.
Leader Jeffries, let me ask you, because, of course, this election night occurring against the backdrop of what is poised to be the longest government shutdown now in U.S. history. There has been some discussion that lawmakers, the Senate in particular, getting closer to a potential off-ramp. At this hour, are you optimistic that you will be able to end this government shutdown this week?
He can't end shit. He's in the House. He's not even in the Senate. He can't do shit. All he can do is just peddle on Donald Trump and the high cost of Donald Trump and Donald Trump and more Donald Trump.
We've said from the very beginning, listen, we want to sit down with Republicans, and we're willing to do so anytime, any place, in order to reopen the government.
No, you're not. You're insisting that they pass $1.5 trillion in spending. And I bet if Republicans come back and say, look, we'll give you $1.49 trillion, they'll still say, no, government's going to stay shut down.
In order to enact a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people. But at the same time, we have to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. We've also said as House Democrats that we will evaluate in good faith anything that is bipartisan that emerges from the Senate. Part of the problem that we've confronted over the last 35 days, Donald Trump has spent more time on the golf course
again. Oh, my God.
than he has in talking with Democrats who represent half the country. He's completely and totally disinterested in reopening the government.
I think he's got a crush on Trump. I think he wants to have Trump babies.
Weaponize starvation, breaking the law, withholding SNAP benefits, can't find a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, while at the same period of time can find...
Well, dude, you can't find a dime to extend them either. All you're going to do is just chalk it up to the national deficit.
$40 billion to bail
Democrats
out
are really good at doing that.
Be dictator in Argentina. This is extraordinary stuff. And the American people are rejecting it. They know the country is moving in the wrong direction. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, but that's not actually really happening, though, because you've got major businesses all over the country. You've got all of the major airlines that have already written letters to Democrats insisting that they open the government, that they pass the CR bill, because it ain't Republicans holding up the CR bill. It is the Democrats.
Senate Republicans will come to their senses sooner rather than later and sit down to negotiate a bipartisan path forward.
All right. Leader Jeffries, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really...
At least I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. It looks like the Republicans they're digging in their heels because, look, it's a clean CR bill. I think Republicans should just stick to it because it's going to hurt Democrats a lot more down the road. Look, especially if it stays shut down to the end of the year with the whole Christmas season and everything. Like I said, like for anybody who's just sitting at home and the government is not directly involved in their lives, like they're not actually, tangibly and physically involved in this whole government shutdown, then yeah, it's easy to believe whatever, Hakeem Jeffries is saying or Chucky Cuck Schumer is saying. But if you're going to travel during the holiday season and you end up getting stuck in an airport for 3 or 4 days straight, you're going to start looking into what's really going on. You're going to start opening up your eyes and being like, you know what? Why the fuck am I stuck here for 3 solid days? And why can't I get to my family? And then that's when people start realizing, oh, okay, so it's this, and there's that, and all right, well, anyway, so House Republicans watch Hakeem Jeffries get fact-checked on CNN again tonight after trying to deflect blame for Democrats shutting down the government. CNN host, Mr. Leader, you guys are voting no on opening the government, not Republicans. I know you're asking for specific things. So, look, CNN, they're holding their feet to the fire here and there, but there's other times that they're definitely not holding their feet to the fire, but it looks like in this instance they are. I wish this was more than 13 seconds, but at least we'll get a taste of it.
Mr. Leader,
you guys are voting no on opening the government, not Republicans. I know you're asking for specific things, and it's much more complicated than that. We'll get to that in 1 second.
Hold on a second, Dana, because let's just be clear about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hold on. I smell gaslight in the air. I smell it. I got to waft it off in your direction. You got to get a nice smell of this stenchy fucking gaslight that I'm about to disseminate all over you. It's going to blast your nostrils with all this fucking gaslighting. All right, so I'm going to move on to House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. So we're moving away from the shutdown at this point. Thank God. I'm so freaking sick of this government shutdown. This is how long it's been, technically speaking, as of this recording, 35 days, 21 hours, 5 minutes, and 51 seconds. The Republicans and the Democrats, they're calling it 36 days at this point, but technically it's been 35 days, 21 hours because the shutdown occurred at midnight starting on October 1st. But anyway, so moving on, the UN willfully ignored evidence that UNRWA employees were moonlighting as Hamas terrorists. As Congress and the Trump administration have made abundantly clear, UNWRA has no future in Gaza given this failure. As we look to the future, we must work to set up an alternative system of distribution that ensures stringent vetting of all UN employees and subcontractors and demand accountability for those that aided and abetted Hamas. And I don't believe they linked anything with this. It was just a statement. Oh no, yeah, here we go. Read the full story. They got the full story on freebeacon.com. How the UN tossed out Israeli intel to downplay UNRWA's ties to Hamas. The United Nations stated in a confidential report reviewed by the Free Beacon that the intelligence was likely correct but refused to fire 10 of the 19 staffers Israel identified. A UN probe into its staffers' involvement in the October 7th attack against Israel dismissed key intelligence, including intercepted audio recordings and cell phone data that connected those staffers to Hamas, a Washington Free Beacon review of confidential UN documents found. Investigators with the UN Office of Internal Oversight Services, OIOS, looked into 19 UN Relief and Works Agency employees. So again, UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Works Agency, employees ties to Hamas based on Israeli intelligence, and produced a report which the United Nations has not released publicly, which the Free Beacon reviewed. It portrays the intelligence as likely authentic, yet deems it insufficient to support the firings of 10 UNRWA staffers. This was the case with an alleged Hamas platoon commander and a second Hamas operative, both of whom Israel identified through intercepted phone calls and text messages. The revelation suggests UNRWA may still employ Hamas terrorists who could play a role on the ground if the international organization is allowed to participate in aid distribution in Gaza. As the Free Beacon has reported, at least one senior UN official who wishes to restore UNRWA's control of aid has angled for a prominent position in President Donald Trump's plans for the territory. UNRWA staffers with ties to Hamas, who remain in good standing with international organization, meanwhile could transfer to other UN agencies. The United Nations cited this investigation in August when it announced it would not fire 10 of the employees Israel identified. UN bodies have used the results to claim reports of UNRWA involvement with Hamas are quote-unquote not substantiated, as the International Court of Justice did when it ruled late last month that UNRWA should reassume control of humanitarian aid deliveries in post-war Gaza over Israel's objections. The report includes multiple instances in which the United Nations waved off Israeli intelligence, with few, if any, attempts to corroborate the evidence, undermining the United Nations announcement and its attempts to play down the relationship between UNRWA and Hamas. UN investigators reviewed audio from a cell phone call between an UNRWA staffer and his son, who allegedly infiltrated Israel on October 7th alongside Hamas. Israeli officials said the audio shows the unnamed UNRWA official assisted his son and brother in infiltrating Israel and returning to Gaza, and participated in the kidnapping of an Israeli woman. The UN report said that while the speaker, alleged to be the staff member's son, made incriminating comments and admissions about being inside Israeli territory and of having taken a hostage, the responding tone, language, and utterances appear to be that of a parent outraged by his errant son's conduct. In a second case outlined in the report, Israel provided SMS messages and other cell phone data to an alleged Hamas commander in the terror group's Nusayrat battalion. The terror group allegedly called the unnamed UNRWA staffer to the meeting point prior to the infiltration and armed attacks, according to the intelligence relayed in the United Nations report. The staffer allegedly received another text message hours later telling him to bring, quote, 2 anti-tank missiles, end quote, to a location. Let me see how long this goes. Wow, man. Another long-winded one. So I'll just cut it there. Let's see, how far did I get? So I got to this point. So if you want to read further, I'll have that linked for you. And again, where was that? That was from Free Beacon. That's right, Free Beacon. freebeacon.com. And we'll move on to Department of War. An unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile launches during an operational test at 1:35 a.m. Pacific time on November 5th, today, at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Under the President and Secretary of War, we have peace through strength. An ICBM. That is not SpaceX. That's not NASA. That is our military. An ICBM. But of course, yeah, they said there was no payload on it, right? Yeah, unarmed. Yeah, it was unarmed. So it was just an ICBM test. And from Ron DeSantis, our prohibition on the CCP owning land in Florida has survived legal challenge at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. From Attorney General James Uthmeyer, today we won big at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, defending our law preventing ownership of Florida land by the Chinese Communist Party, thanks to Senior Deputy Solicitor General Forrester and Assistant Solicitor General Schneck for securing a huge win for Florida. And the United States Court of Appeals in the 11th Circuit, and it looks like that's just, yeah, it's just the initial page, like the cover page or whatever. So that's an epic win. It's a major win. Hopefully that sets precedent for the rest of the country, because the CCP, they've got land all over the country, most of which are surrounding military bases of all things. And moving to the White House, Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening there and in numerous other countries. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. President Trump.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
Yeah, and you got officials over in Nigeria saying, "Oh, nothing to see here." No, there's nothing to see here. And like that, I think I heard from someone, I don't know if it was the president of Nigeria, saying that we've got freedom of religion in our Constitution. So that totally means nothing bad is happening here. Or like we've got it under control or something like that. Anyway, Secretary of the Navy John C. Phelan. This Veterans Day, the Department of the Navy commemorates 250 years of American sea power with Above, Below, and Beyond. A 2-hour presidential special airing Sunday, November 9th, 2025 on Fox Nation. In this tribute, we show the world and our adversaries that America's Navy Marine Corps team and their families is what makes America a superpower. This honors both those in uniform and the families who give them strength. The next century of American sea power won't be defined by a single platform, but by the character of our people. This is on Navy.mil. And Above, Below, and Beyond, the Department of the Navy honors 250 years of the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps this Veterans Day. So you can check that out for yourself. And that'll be happening again on November the 9th. And it'll be on Fox Nation. And I'm assuming they'll probably be streaming that on YouTube. And I'm guessing that's probably going to be something that everybody can tune into. Ashley Moody, thank you, real Donald Trump, President Trump. I'll continue to hold the line and never stop fighting to make America great again. So he gives Senator Moody a shout out.
I want to thank your two great senators, Ashley Moody and Rick Scott. And, you know, I just left them. Believe it or not, I had a meeting with all the senators this morning. I gave them
maybe about the filibuster.
Because, frankly, it's always nice to have good vision. And they are two terrific senators, and they're in Washington working hard, and they were going to come. And I said, do me a favor, stay back and work on the things you're working on. They're working on really things. And Ashley is in the election.
The
Rick
nuclear option,
election,
maybe?
The two great senators that you have right here in Florida. So that's really good. And they're working to make America great again. So I said, stay back in Washington.
Yeah, I bet they would. I bet Rick Scott, I bet he would nuke the filibuster. I just a random guess, but I bet he would. Secretary Marco Rubio met with J. Daniel Ferrer, let's see, coordinator de la UNPACU, promoter, Cuba. Okay, so a Cuban, for I don't know if freedom fighter is the right word, but anyway, it reads, following his arrival to the United States after years of oppression at the hands of the Cuban regime, we are glad he is free from the regime's oppression, and the United States continues to stand with Ferrer and all of the everyday Cubans working for freedom and justice. And I'm honestly not familiar with his story, but you know, he's alongside Secretary Rubio, so he was able to get him out of Cuba, and he's here in America. U.S. FDA. Today, the FDA issued 18 warning letters to websites illegally selling unapproved Botox products. These dangerous products can cause serious harm, including botulism symptoms that affect breathing and muscle function. Only get botulinum toxin injections from licensed healthcare providers using FDA-approved products. That cracks me up that people inject botulism into their face to try to, I don't know, like give the artificial ability to appear younger. I just think that's just crazy. But it's nothing new. They've been doing it for people. They've been doing it for a long time. Secretary Hegseth has concluded his trip to South Korea. The American Republic of Korea alliance has never been stronger. So this is the last thing I got. This is what we're going to finish up on.
Minister Ahn, thank you for hosting the 57th Security Consultative Meeting. It's my first time in Seoul as Secretary of War. It's an honor to be here at a critical moment in the history of the U.S.-ROK alliance. President Trump wants allies to be strong, and the Republic of Korea is a model ally. Together! Been on a 9-day tour. We were in the Indo-Pacific, went to Japan, went to Malaysia, we went to Vietnam, and the whole time I knew we were going to get to end here, which is a reminder of exactly why we do this job. Because I could talk about deterrence all day long, all I want, but there is no deterrence without all of you. I'm looking in the eyes of deterrence, the faces and the families of deterrence, of the sacrifice that's required to keep us free. You can talk about peace through strength, but you got to have somebody that does the strength part. We're the strength department. You're the strength department. Tell your wife or your husband, your father, your mother, tell them how much I appreciate them as well. No soldier, no airman, no Marine, no sailor, no guardsman, no ally serves by themselves. It's your spouse, it's your kids, it's your grandkids, it's your parents, it's your neighbors, it's your pastor, it's your community that support you as well. Pass my gratitude to them also. But most importantly, thank you.
All right, and that is all that I got for tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new episode every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. I also post daily episodes on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.